The only thing going through my mind in the last like 3 or 4 minutes of that game was Jim Downey and Billy Madison as the principal after Billy goes on the huge rant, and just the tone of it, everything about it, where it's like at no point in that rambling, incoherent set of decisions did you get close to anything that could be considered a rational plan. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having watched that game. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
May God have mercy on our souls.
And I award Matt LaFleur no points.
We're all wearing blue for how just sad that game was. We're very depressing colors.
You are so defeated over here.
I think Derek's a lot sadder than me. I'm pretty pumped.
I'm having a good time.
The Eagles agenda is alive. I got to watch.
Oh, you feel good about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yes.
Dave is very much a win-to-win kind of guy.
Wait, okay. Quick tangent before we get into this. I was thinking about this all during the game, right? Because we're having this YouTube TV, ESPN fiasco, and it's harder than it should be to watch this game. And the whole time I'm just like, this is what football was like for a lot of its history, where you're just counting on the few people that could actually see it to tell you what happened, you know? And like, if I wanted to, like if this was 1930, whatever, and I was Grantland Rice, I could just be like, the Eagles defense carried the day, dominant performance for Philadelphia. Obviously, that's not what happened, but I could paint it that way if I wanted to. And since I have a lot of Eagles shares, maybe I will.
We don't need like an oral tradition of passing this game down on to like the next generation. We could lose this one to history.
No other generation made a bunch of dipshit decisions.
Let's take these one by one. To me, in the last like 5 minutes of that game, I mean, it's probably a good competition. What is the craziest decision that happened in the last 5 minutes of that game? Is it Nick Sirianni going for it on that fourth down for no inexplicable reason?
It's Nick Sirianni, and that's how crazy it is because Matt LaFleur did like 3 ridiculous things in quick succession. But going for that from where they were on the field, knowing that as much as he struggled, the Packers have a quarterback who can throw an insane ball that gets completed 18, 25 yards downfield. Like, to the fact that we even had the whole fiasco with Brandon McManus and are they going to kick? Are they going to try to get closer? What the hell are they doing? The fact that the kicker was even on the field with a chance to tie the game is completely insane.
Yeah, it's bonkers. That part of it, I mean, the how hilarious the last kick was, considering the fact that the first one wasn't that far off. I just don't understand if you're Matt LaFleur. I guess I get there. You have a 64-yard field goal. It comes up about a yard and a half short when he kicks it the first time. So in his mind, he goes, I need another yard and a half. So he sends the offense back out there. In my mind, it's like, it was close enough. Just let him kick the ball again.
And it's also like, McManus kicking a 64-yarder. You already know you need more yards to begin with. Yeah, like, what did the extra kick help you? You knew that going in. You were banking on a 2% chance of this happening. He needed to see
it fall short to know that a guy who's never kicked that long. Actually, they said nobody's ever made a field goal that long at Lambeau Field.
Never at Lambeau Field. They turned down multiple, like, long 50-ish yard field goals today, like 58-yarders, 59-yarders. They refused to kick them and ended up becoming a meaningful part of this game. But then the 64-yarder is like, oh, now I know we need a couple more yards. So that whole part of it, I 100% agree with you. The fact that it was even a possibility to kick that field goal is absolutely bonkers. So Nick Sirianni lost his mind, but it happened shortly after Matt LaFleur seemed to lose his mind. The Packers have a 4th and 1 in this game with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the game. They have 2 timeouts left. They're at, I don't remember the exact yard line.
They're past the midfield, I think.
So on this 4th and 1, they're at the 44-yard line, okay? With 1 minute and a half left and 2 timeouts. You need a field goal to tie the game. The clock is not your enemy. Like, that is not your biggest problem here. The down is the biggest problem here. So even with all of that in mind, they rush up to the line of scrimmage, run a shotgun run where Luke Musgrave and I think it was Jordan Morgan, the right guard on that play, get deleted by Jalen Phillips and Jalen Carter. It's a 4-yard loss for Josh Jacobs, and the game is essentially over. Like, I just don't understand how you can approach that play in that moment with that is the entire game, is that single play, and that's how it unfolded. Like, I just can't comprehend that you knew the importance of that play when deciding to run it that way.
They wouldn't have even got the conversion if they got the yards because Dontavian Wicks got an illegal formation call on it.
Oh my God.
That's the other thing is like, there were a couple plays, but I think for a while I've defended the Packers as like they're a young team, but they're still really good. All this other stuff. I'm to the point of like, they're just a young team. Like, that's it. They're just a young team, and stupid stuff is going to happen. Like,
they're not that young anymore.
How many? They still are. They are still one of the youngest, like, by snap.
I'm done with that. I'm
saying I'm there too. Like, they're just a young, dumb team.
At what point? At what
That's
point
what I'm saying.
Okay,
now.
this is the point.
I'm there now.
This is
That's
the point where
saying.
it's like, okay, you're only 26 years old, but how many freaking times are we going to ding your credit score for not paying your bill?
Yes, this was the last ding the credit score. I'm over it.
Thank you.
Start to make some plays. Like, I'm kind of there with this team.
I think everybody, if we're carving up the blame pie for the Packers, no one on the defense deserves any. The defense played well enough to win this game. You had multiple big time plays against the run. I thought that the DBs played well in this game. I mean, the only two plays that the Eagles made, which we'll get to, were the Saquon check down and the huge Devontae Smith touchdown, which those are going to happen if you let them linger and hang around the game long enough. So the defense, great job. Hats off to you. Wonderful performance. Everybody on the offense deserves some share of blame in this game. We just talked about the Matt LaFleur situational decision-making. I think that there are going to be some people that look at some of the drops that happened in the second half, the Bo Melton drop, Dontavian Wicks could have made that play on that big crosser, and be like, oh, Jordan Love's teammates let him down in this game. I was incredibly disappointed in the way that Jordan Love played for a huge chunk of this game. And we were talking about it as the game was unfolding. When Jordan Love has been frustrating to me in the past, it's because every once in a while, there's a little bit too much dip on his chip, and he's trying to make plays that aren't there to be made. He's a little bit too aggressive, some of the drifting back in the pocket to try to find plays. I was willing to live with all of that because the rewards at the end of the road were good enough with that mindset and that play style. There were 4 or 5 plays in this game swinging moments where he has guys, if he lets these throws rip, and he just doesn't trigger on these throws. That version of Jordan Love, that is not one I'm willing to like hand wave away because there's no reward waiting at the end of that. This is like a different deficiency that I'm not used to watching from him, and it crept up multiple different times tonight.
And this game was like indefensively bad on that front. Like the Panthers game had a couple of those moments, but I still thought he like generally made a lot of good plays in that game. In this game, again, there were a couple of drops, but he largely like let them down in a lot of key moments in this game. Like just it's bailing from the pocket, which like one small thing I noticed, I looked up, 4% more of his pressured dropbacks are finishing outside of the pocket this year, which like that's a small number, but like you can feel that in the way he plays. Like he's just getting outside of the pocket quicker than he used to. And Dave, we were talking about this during the game. His like calling card used to be like, he's going to hang in there for 4 seconds, throw it off his back foot. It might be stupid, but he's going to do it.
I'd rather it be stupid.
Because exactly, like if you do the stupid thing 5 times, like Christian Watson's going to catch 2 of them and Tucker Kraft's going to get 2. I know he's hurt right now, but like generally that's how it worked for them. He's just not even trying as much of that stuff until the game was like on the line.
It reminds me a little bit about what we've talked about with Caleb Williams, and it's not the skill sets are not 1-to-1, but it's the whole idea of like, okay, you got to rein that shit in and play within structure and play on time most of the time. But here's something you do that makes you special and very, very hard to defend. And it doesn't feel like Jordan Love has tapped into it nearly as often as you would probably prefer, certainly in a game like this. And I think it broke Robert's brain, the strip sack at the end of the first half, where you had like less than a minute to play. Packers are on the plus 27. It's well within McManus's range. Like worst case scenario, you take a check down to Luke Musgrave. You live to fight another day. You kick a field goal, which
wasn't even a check down. It was 2nd and 10, and Luke Musgrave was sitting 7 yards over the ball, wide open.
It's crazy. And instead, not only do you take the sack, which is one thing, you can maybe bounce back from that, but to get stripped as well, and in a game where 10 points wins you the thing, it's unbelievable.
Obviously, we don't have the all 22 of it yet, but watching that game with the dots and with the TV copy, you can sync them up and see where things are at the top of his drop. And when he hits the top of that drop on that 2nd and 10 strip sack with 29 seconds left in the half, Luke Musgrave is just standing there. And the
all 22 is up right now, by the way. And like Luke Musgrave is basically, I mean, all these.
He's turned
the only
around.
Thing he's not, the only thing he's not doing is presenting a target. Like he's facing the quarterback. He is ready to receive a pass. And it gets you a minimum of 6 yards.
And so Nakobe, there is pressure coming on that play, but if he triggers on that ball when he should on time, it's an easy completion. And so that's the problem with this. I think people are going to look at like the pressure rate specifically in this game. He was pressured on 41% of his dropbacks per next gen. But part of that is because he's inviting some of that pressure with how he's holding on to the ball. There were only, even though he was pressured on 41% of his dropbacks, there were 5 quick pressures in this game for the Eagles. That's it. 5 quick pressures. Every single defensive lineman for the Eagles who had more than 1 pressure in this game had a time to pressure of at least 3 seconds. And most of them were closer to 3.5 seconds. So it's not as if he was under siege for the entire game. I do think that Elton Jenkins goes down. You move Sean Ryan over. So now you're dealing with, 2 new pieces up front. You did feel that, but I don't think this was a case where he had absolutely no shot in the pocket.
He was already doing that before that happened.
Yes. I think there is a lack of trust with the way the offensive line is currently playing. And I do think that's starting to creep into what you see from them. And then the other one that I think is similar, along with the strip sack at the end of the half, the sack he takes on the first drive, that's another play where he has the corner out coming open to Dobbs against cover 6 if he wants to take it, and he doesn't take it. And so that is the most frustrating kind of bewildering thing about this, is that Jordan Love had deficiencies and warts previously as a player, but you could live with some of them because the upside was so high with the play style and the way that he was just operating at quarterback. Now, if he's going to be gun shy on top of some of the bozo moments that we see every once in a while, that is a concerning combination of stuff.
Because then what is the point of him being the athlete? He's not like a runner, but like the nimble athlete that he is in the pocket and his arm. Like, what is the point of having those skills if you're not going to unleash them in the way that he used to for the first 3 points of his career? There is part of me, and this is not to absolve Jordan Love. He played like shit in this game. And like parts of the Panthers game as well. And him being more conservative is really weird. You can see it in the play calling though. It's kind of I wonder how much of this is top down for them. There's everyone in that building is scared of the 5 people in front of Jordan Love.
I think that's a very good thing to bring up, is that you can kind of feel it coming from all of these different directions. Part of it's the quality of the offensive line. Part of it is the quarterback not trusting the offensive line. Part of it is the play caller not trusting the offensive line and the quarterback. You're obviously banged up a receiver. It's a cascading effect when all of these things are starting to pile up. And that's what the offense feels like right now.
Which ties so well into what we've said about the Packers every time they've come up over the last month or so, is we struggle to explain what's wrong with the Packers, and it feel like you can just feel this uneasiness when you watch them, where you talk about the concept of what are our bread and butter plays. I don't think they have any, and I think
hard.
I think they know that, and that's a tough place to be, where it's like, well, what do we have that works?
The best thing they do right now, in my opinion, under center play action in breakers, because you're providing a ocean of space for him to make those decisions. There's nothing blurry about those throws, and those were most of the best plays he made today.
And to Dave's point of they don't have bread and butter plays. So much of what they do decently as an offense is they can be relatively efficient at times, just getting to the line, giving Jordan Love 2 plays, or they have a package play where they've got to run and just an alert screen or whatever. They've been relatively efficient with that, or just giving him some simple shift checks before the snap and letting him get into certain stuff. And that's them getting into just really cheap, efficient plays. That's not calling an offense. And I think that's, to me, the biggest difference that we're feeling right now.
And there were a couple other moments in this game. It's a quieter one that is not as big of a mistake because it ends up in a punt. But on the 3rd and 8 on their 3rd drive, they're high-lowing a linebacker over the middle of the field, and he takes the low to Musgrave for a 6-yard completion. It ends up being 4th and 2. They take a delay of game and they punt the ball. Yeah. It's another one where it's it's a small thing, but Watson is coming open on that high-low if he wants to take that, and he would have taken that every single time.
That's all he 2 did years ago. For last 18 games that he played.
I just wonder if it starts to affect you with the amount of too high that they're seeing, and the way that defenses are playing them, where the windows just feel smaller for Jordan Love, and the stuff that felt open, or the stuff that felt reliable before, doesn't feel that way anymore. And I'm sure that, it's draining mentally, and they don't run the ball well enough to shake defenses out of that stuff a lot of the time. I mean, it sucks. I thought Josh Jacobs was heroic in this game up until the botched screen at the end there that could have been the biggest play of the night, which I'm not going to dog Josh Jacobs for that. He was willpowering them to be in this game at points, but Those are just the type of breaks. It was that kind of day.
And we've talked about this. If you're going to be sitting in there with light boxes and playing all of this shell against this team, you have to be able to hammer teams on the ground, and they're just not set up to do that right now. They had a 35.5% rushing success rate. Josh Jacobs did on light box runs in this game. 14 carries for 40 yards, 2.9 yards a clip against 6 or fewer men in the box per next gen. If that's going to be the case, and you're not going to throw these balls into blurry windows, then it's going to start to unravel offensively.
Yeah, and I had a similar stat, like their under center run game, which I was complaining about heading into this game. 14 runs, again, of 40 yards. Kind of funny, it turns out the same way, and like a 15% rushing success rate. Like they just could not. And again, like that, I think is how LaFleur wants to tie the offense together, is to get under center, get into those play action shots that you were talking about. And they just can't get into any of that right now. One last thing I want to talk about in terms of them being like a young team, and this was probably the other one that really pissed me off. Jordan Love had a chunk throw to Christian Watson towards the right side as they were driving a little bit early in the fourth quarter. Darian Kennard is in the game as a jumbo tight end, and they have like an offset stack with the 2 receivers to the left-hand side. And so one of them is on the ball. But Darian Kennard, being the 6th offensive lineman, he's used to being an offensive lineman, being on the ball. And so he lines up as the tight end.
And he reported as eligible.
Right, reported as eligible. He gets covered, obviously, by the receiver on the line. And so that's a penalty, and that strips it away. It's just like, it just feels like stuff like that all the time, where they just can't get themselves right, even when they have these big moments.
On the other side of the ball, I mean, the Eagles offense was really no better for most of this game. Again, like it all comes down to you being able to spit the ball to Saquon Barkley in the flat. Him making Carrington Valentine just looks so silly. Like that's just a moment that you can see coming. It's almost like a slow motion car crash, but it's still there in all of its glory. It still kind of overwhelms you when you watch it.
It's funny, for as often as they happen, or as often as they are attempted, like a really juicy spin move only comes around every so often, where like the timing is right and you keep your balance the right way and it just flows perfectly. And that was one of the best I've seen in a while. It reminded me, this is so dumb and random, but Braxton Miller.
Oh man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
He did that in a college game against Virginia Tech, and I think it's the best spin move I've ever seen in my life. But this was very, very good and awesome.
And then the next play, they had Devontae Smith on that big post route. Again, deep shot against quarters, they do exist. A little dig on the play side from A.J. Brown, post behind it. Evan Williams, it's not bad coverage on that play.
He plays that as well as you can.
Devontae Smith is a really, really good player. And then Devontae had a big 3rd down conversion in this game where I think it was Keyshawn Nixon who had several really nice moments and has played really well this season. Devontae's threatening him vertically. He breaks it off. It's a 3rd down conversion. So Devontae continues to play really, really good football. But for the most part, a lot of the issues that we saw with the Eagles offense today are some of the same issues that we've been seeing. When teams are going to play a shitload of cloud against them, which is exactly what the Packers did today. I didn't have the final numbers on it. I'd be curious to look at them right now. So the Packers, by the end of this game, played more cover 6 than anything else. The combination of 2 6 and quarters, we're sitting at about 50% of total snaps. So 50% too high, very, very little man. Even when they did play man, they were actually really successful on those plays.
There was a couple of those 3rd downs I remember that they were just like critical downs. They wanted to shut them down.
And they a lot of those 3rd downs, they were forcing Jalen to get rid of the ball really quickly. That's when they were doing some of that 5-man pressure stuff. And so you combine that overall formula and them struggling to, by the way, the Eagles played 47% cover 6 in this game on their drop back. So just a whole lot of cloud coverage in this game and making the offenses beat us by not being able to throw the ball down the field. And then you combine that approach to the pass defense to, again, the Eagles being unable to run the ball into a lot of those looks. So Lane Johnson gets hurt at one point in this game. So now you move Fred Johnson out to right tackle. They still have Matt Pryor as a 6th offensive lineman, so they could have done some more jumbo stuff than they did. But for a good majority of the game, really before the 4th quarter, they went back to some of those 12 personnel runs that they had been trying earlier in the season, and it was just a complete non-starter. So on 12 personnel runs in this game, per Next Gen Stats, 6 carries for 10 yards. One of those carries was successful for Saquon Barkley. And so in a lot of ways, the offense felt like the Philadelphia Eagles offense that we watched for the first month of the season.
Because again, outside. So again, it takes them forever to get going. And then you get 2 big plays at the end by your star players. And other than that, like what were Jalen Hurts' best throws? He had one to the middle on like a chunk to Dallas Goedert over the middle.
Yeah, that was beautiful,
which was a great play.
Yeah.
the throw to Devonta Smith on the third down that we just talked about, and then everything else was just like some of those throws to Goddard in the flat where they're like sprinting him out, or it's an RPO.
I'm going to push back on this a little bit. I thought Jalen was really pretty damn good.
I don't think he was bad. They just like didn't access anything in this game.
Really, I mean, the plays he made early in the game where he was having to make some plays off schedule, ironically, with a couple of those pressures from Micah. Those are
agree. Yes.
Yeah,
that
was
outside of the pocket.
I don't think he played poorly. They just didn't do much.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he was not bad. They just didn't do anything.
The opening drive, which was ironically when he fumbled, he was dealing, man.
Yeah,
like the throw to Shipley where he outran Micah to the sideline.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
That's probably his best
and
play
then,
today.
He had two big third down throws to Devonta Smith, I think, in the second half of this game. And the one that got 16 was like the big one. Mm-hmm. And of course, like the Eagles scored 10 points. Like
it was a 3rd and 12 on the one to Devonta Smith on the right sideline. That was a big play.
Of course, the list of like genuinely impressive moments is not going to be long when you score 10 points, but he made some nails plays in this game, and the touchdown was gorgeous. Just letting your guy go up, which I think I'm not the first person to mention this. We've seen a lot of talk about like, well, is Devonta Smith the Eagles receiver one? And Devonta Smith makes the touchdown. He's making these big third down grabs. And then the weird 4th down play that didn't need to happen, he targets AJ Brown. And I'm sure like in the huddle, they're like, this is what you do, bro. Just go. That's your football. And like, it didn't work at all. It's very weird how I don't understand why it's so hard to get AJ Brown involved in a football game when what he is the best at is turning a 50-50 ball into a 75-25 ball. Like that shouldn't be that hard.
I assume there's a decent amount of cloud coverage in this game where like that's what they've done to AJ Brown consistently. And the fact that this team struggles to find answers to that all the time, like that's I think the criticism isn't about more so that there wasn't anything for the quarterback to do in this game. Not that the quarterback didn't play well.
I am usually a Jalen Hurts did not do enough guy. Jalen Hurts played fine. They just like could not allow him to access like as much as I think they've started to show that this offense can do. That was really my frustration is they came into this week being like, okay, we're getting under center. We can run the ball. We can get to this different stuff. We can play action. And really outside of hitting that Devonta Smith touchdown, they didn't really access a whole lot of that all that well. They ran the ball under center 17 times in this game for 54 yards and a 27.8% success rate.
My cope as somebody who believes in the Eagles, and actually amazing timing by our wonderful producers, because today ahead of the game we clipped out my take about how I thought the Eagles the Eagles are coming, baby, and like 3 hours before this just schlock fest. It's just love the internet, love how it always works out that way. But if I'm coping, you lose Lane Johnson in the second quarter of this game, like we talked about it, Robert. They had, however many runs they had with 6 offensive linemen, it was not as successful as what it was. But the first time they did it, when Lane and Fred Johnson were the guys, Saquon had a 15-yard run. Like they popped an explosive. And I get it, injuries happen, but like if you've got Lane and Fred Johnson is your 6 offensive linemen instead of playing tackle for most of the night and all that stuff that comes with it, maybe it could look better. I've said this before. Ideally, you can be more successful in unideal circumstances, but that might just not be the world that we're living in.
And that's a great point, too, because like one of the worst plays that they had in this game as a rushing offense was they were trying to run like a fullback lead to the right side, and Fred Johnson was in the game at this point as the right tackle, and he like kind of runs into space because he's uncovered at the line of scrimmage. He should peel back and find Quay Walker. Does not peel back and find Quay Walker, and Quay Walker ends up in the backfield. So that's a good point, is that even though it was like a little bit uneven early, it's like if they have Lane, they better chance they find their level at some point in that game.
I'm always intrigued by injuries to big players that happen relatively early in the game, and it's just like, okay, well, how much of your game plan just got nuked by this injury? And that can be a lame excuse, but when you're talking about somebody of Lane Johnson's caliber, I'm a little more willing to listen.
Couple of the lingering questions we had about the Eagles defense post trades and just coming into the second half of the season. Cooper DeJean almost exclusively a nickel when they had 5 DBs in the field today, so we got our answer on that. Michael Carter played 1 snap in this game, so it seems like they're going to say our front is going to be better, we're going to be okay, and we're going to ride with this current group with Cooper still in the nickel. And guess what? The front might be better.
How pumped are you about Jalen Phillips coming out of this game?
Jalen Phillips played pretty damn well today. And so the fact that immediately has paid dividends for this team, I think that is worth pointing out. And we weren't sure when Nolan Smith was going to play. He didn't play a ton of snaps in this game. He played 18 snaps, so they're clearly kind of working him back in. But I'm sure we'll see more of him as we get a little bit deeper into this thing. But Jalen Phillips, like a week after getting traded, played 52 snaps in this game, and you felt him pretty consistently.
Just watching, like anecdotally on a first watch on TV with you guys, I'm surprised to read and hear that Nolan Smith only played 18 snaps. He felt way more active than that. Like for his first game back from injury, I felt like he was out there doing
the pressure and the twists.
He looked like Nolan Smith, even if it was in a smaller role than what you would hope.
A frustrating game for both sides. I think a much more frustrating and potentially like the sky is falling sort of game for the Packers and their fan base. The next 72 hours are going to be troubling if you are a fan of that team in Wisconsin.
Did we take the time to say that the Packers have another kicker who hit a 61-yarder?
We did not take the time to say that. The fact that they turned down multiple 58-yarders and they have a kicker that is inactive that could potentially be hitting those is particularly frustrating.
LaFleur said he doesn't talk to his kicker, so he wouldn't know that.
You don't have to talk to a kicker to make one active and the other inactive.
He's turning around when they're kicking. He doesn't care.
Talk to you go up to Rich Bisaccia and you say, hey, the other guy is up and 17's down because he's not fully healthy and we might need to kick some field goals here.
Yeah, in a world where guys are banging them from 60 pretty consistently, the fact that you won't even try like a 58-yard field goal and you're going for it on 4th and 9 in those moments, it's a tough one.
Tough month for the Green Bay Packers.
I'm sure that it's not going to get any easier when it comes to the discourse here over the next couple of days. How are you feeling over there, buddy?
Defeated. I'm going to have to dress up as potentially something horrible for Radio Row.
Okay. So I'm curious before we get out of here. Are you more disappointed in the fact that your belief in the Packers has not come to fruition, or are you more disappointed in the fact that the Packers are going to play a significant role potentially in you losing the wins pool?
Oh, I'm wrong about shit all the time. I just don't want to dress up on Radio Row.
Oh, that's disappointing. I thought it was more of like an existential.
There's a little bit of that.
I'll be honest. I thought it was more just about like you thought this was the team. Like that's why I'm disappointed in the Ravens. I thought they were the team.
There's some of that. But like, I still have like a lot of that to me was rooted in Jordan Love. And I still have like long-term faith that he's going to be like a pretty good quarterback. Like this game is one of the worst that he's ever played in the regular season. And that hurts in the moment. He's going to play better games and better seasons. That part of it is fine.
You just don't want to dress up like Bengals.
I don't want to be
Bengals Boba Fett.
I don't want to be Bengals Boba Fett. That one's going to hurt.
It's the Bengalorean. Put some respect on his name.
I don't want to be that.
I'm sorry.
All right. That's all we've got for today. We will be back later this week. Encourage you guys on Tuesday morning to check out the Week 10 hangover. Me and Derek chatted about the Brian Daboll firing. Had some conversations about Ravens, Vikings, and Steelers, Chargers. That was a fun hangover. Encourage you guys to check that out if you have not been listening to those shows. In the middle of the week this week, we are doing mid-season awards. The three of us on this podcast Thursday. Be sure to tune into that one along with Building the Beast every single Wednesday with our guy Dave Helman and Dave Brugler. A lot of good stuff on tap for now. That's all we got. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you very soon.